Hey friends, Frankie and Brad here in Casper's Kitchen where we cook music. Today, Brad and I are going to talk about a subject that is probably different for every age group. What is your favorite decade of music? Um, and that would vary quite a bit, probably with age. If you're young, you're probably obviously not going to be aware of 1950s music. Uh, Brad and I have talked about this a little bit, and we differ in our opinions slightly. We agree to disagree. Brad, kick us off.
All right, and we are talking about guitar players
Right.
from those decades. Being a child in the 50s, you know, I had no idea, but my favorite song from the 50s, even as a child, was Sleepwalk, Santo
Wow.
and Johnny. And I mean, I was wanting to be a drummer as a kid, so I had no idea what impact that song would have on me personally. And I still love that song.
Yeah, you played a version of that on one of our videos, and you really knocked it out of the park.
Um, so, you know, I think guitar was always in my subconscious, even though I was wanting to be a drummer as a kid. There was something about the guitar that kept drawing me to it, and of course, my mom and dad got me a drum for Christmas, and after a week, my mom said, "I'll buy you anything you want to play. Please don't play the drums." So I said, "Okay, guitar," and that was how I got hooked on it. I grew up, of course. My interest in music started with the British invasion. You know, there was a lot of great guitar players that came out of the 60s.
That's true.
Eric Clapton, Jeff Beck, Jimmy
Jimmy
Page,
Page.
Jimi Hendrix. Uh, Golly, the list goes on. So, to me, well, actually, the 50s had some good guitar players as well, but they were more predominant in the 60s.
Something I think that the 50s, as a major instrument in the early 50s, I recall a lot of the leads being horns. And when the British invasion came, guitar tended to catch on a lot more.
Yes.
You had the few odds and ends, the Dwayne Eddies, the
James Burton and
yeah,
those
oh
guys.
yeah, wow, James Burton, what a guitarist. Whoo wee. Uh, but definitely, I think the British invasion. So many of those guys had copied the John Lee Hookers, the Robert Johnsons, the incredible blues guitarists, and they were a cut above the American guitarists, I think, to up until the late '60s.
And, you know, in that period, I always thought that the British were much better songwriters and more creative than the American bands. You know, at that time, what probably the Beach Boys and
Hmm.
Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons
Yeah,
were the two mainstays in American rock and roll.
yeah, that's very true. I think in the early years of rock bands, um, a lot of great songwriting came out of that. Not all of them were written by the artists themselves.
Right.
A lot of American songwriters wrote for British bands, but um, the folk scene, I think of those eras, you had incredible songwriting, but they weren't bands per se. Very few folk artists had drums, but for bands, I think the British were a cut above of the Americans. Up until the Doors,
Right.
which was late '60s.
Now, we've talked about 60s guitar players, Jeff Beck, Alvin Lee. I mean, Alvin Lee might have been the first speed guitar
Oh,
player I
I
heard, and
agree.
I was like,
I
holy
agree.
cow, this guy's moving.
I think Alvin Lee was. It beat me up here, guys. I think he was better than Hendrix or any other guitar player of that day for technique and speed. Hendrix was an innovator and
He
one of
was
the
an
best.
innovator, and you and I talked about Hendrix, and I've always said that people might gravitate toward his lead playing, but to me, the way he played rhythm was really unique and different from all the other guitar players. Um, and moving into the 70s, when I first heard Johnny Winter,
Hmm.
and there again, I was like, how can anybody go that fast on guitar? He was just a trailblazer in fast guitar. Um, and I believe you said your favorite decade was the 80s.
True. I think different from you. Um, you were playing guitar in the '60s better than I'm playing guitar today, uh, and I think in the '80s when MTV came to my hometown and I saw particularly Triumph, Def Leppard, a lot of the early metal bands, I started stepping up my game. I said, I want to play guitar like that, and I'm still trying. But to me, the '80s metal bands, which they often call the hair bands, those bands had the guitar players that I idolized up until this day. Richie Sambora, Dave Menachetta from Y&T, Poison, Guns N' Roses, CC DeVille with Poison. So many of those guitarists cut their eye teeth on classical music and turned it into metal. And a lot of those leads are classical styles, speeded up. And to this day, that fascinates me. Scorpions, all those bands.
Michael
Uh,
Schenker.
yeah,
Yeah, just
Michael Schenker, wow. A good example of, don't get no better than Michael Schenker. But the Satrianis, the Steve Vais, the John Petrucci's, that kind of music just slapped me down. And to this day, I don't think anything is any better. You have some great guitarists out now. So Chris Buck from England, Mike Dawes, Tommy Emmanuel on acoustic. But a lot of these '80s guitars can hold a candle with any of these modern day shredders. Uh, what do you think of?
well, when you said the 1980s, I started thinking. I went, "Wow!" It's Eric Johnson changed my whole outlook
Certainly.
on how to play a
Wow.
guitar, and I saw him in 1980, and I've seen him probably 4 or 5 times, and yeah, it just changed my whole outlook on how I approach the guitar. And again, Eric plays lead like a lot of these other speed demons. He can move too, but it's his approach to rhythm that really caught my eye. That he does things that not many other guitar players do, and I think that's what separates him. Um, and we actually talked about some of the women guitar players
Yeah. Oh yeah.
who are Gretchen Menn,
Gretchen
who
Menn,
I've
certainly.
always called the female Eric Johnson because she does a lot of those type things that are different from.
Yeah, Gretchen Menn is one of the greatest guitarists alive today. She can do anything, any style, jazz, metal, rock, classical, and does it to perfection. And her husband, who I cannot recall his name, is equally as good. If I'm not mistaken, they met in he's from Italy, and I think they met while she was working on one of her last albums. But Eric Johnson is one of those guitar players that some of the greatest guitar players alive give a nod to Eric Johnson. I mean, he's just one of those guys that not a household name by
No,
everybody,
not at all.
but well respected in the community.
A friend of mine told me that he saw a video where Joe Bonamassa held up Eric Johnson's album Avia Musicom and told his audience that was the greatest guitar album ever recorded, and it influenced him to do what he does. And Joe's no slouch.
Yeah, Joe Bonamassa is
he may be
the best of the best.
Yeah, he may be one of the best ones still playing.
But let us know what you think. What's your favorite decade of rock and roll? Is it the 2000s, the 2020s? Is it, earlier than that? Give us your opinion. Give us your thoughts. Anything you want to add, Brad?
No, I see rock and roll slowly drifting away, and it kind of makes me sad.
To think that a lot of that is due to the greed of the record companies,
yes,
and the lack of record companies getting behind artists. There was, in our day, a record company would sign you, pay to put you on tour, and in some cases, you didn't have to pay them back. In some cases you did, but they put up front money to put you on tour. There's no upfront money to be had anymore. Record companies are
they're not looking for bands. They're looking for
hit
single artists.
Yeah.
They want singers that can make them money and they can control what they do.
And I think audiences have changed. The people today, my grandkids particularly, tend to listen to shorter songs in length.
Yes.
Not, in our day, we didn't mind a 10-minute song. We lowered ourselves to listen to Inagata de Ville, which was, 4 or 5 minutes of drums. We had no shame. But as always, please subscribe to our site. Give us a couple of thumbs up. Comments are welcome. And we appreciate your time as always. And you have a great day. Thanks a bunch.